Hey, what's up YouTube? Today we're going to be doing a transmission drain and refill on this 2011 Nissan Altima. This is the SL model with the 2.5 inline 4-cylinder and the CVT constant variable or variating transmission. Now the first thing we want to do here is we want to take note of where the drain plug is, or I'm sorry, not the drain plug but the dipstick, because we want to make sure that the dipstick is able to be removed before we go draining all the fluid out, because the dipstick is also considered the charge port where you'll be refilling the fluid. So when you're looking at the car head on here, this is the passenger side, this is the driver's side. You want to come right up here by the battery, and if you swing down here, here's the air inlet tube. This is the actual charge port dipstick for the CVT on the Nissan Altima. Now there is a special procedure to get this out. What you have to use is usually a flat blade, flathead screwdriver here, and what that's going to allow you to do is to push in on a little prong in there, which enables you to loosen it. So I'm going to see if I can get a close-up on that here. Let's see if I can get down in there. I'm going to sit you up on tripod, and then I'll see if I can zoom you in on a close-up. Okay, I got the tripod set up. Hopefully it doesn't fall over. I'm going to show you how to remove this. Now what you got to do is you got to get a flathead screwdriver, and you got to go inside here. Now everything's a little warm because I was just driving it. There's a little prong you push in on, and then you can pull out. Now sometimes they can really get in there, especially from heat. There. So that's been out recently, so it wasn't as hard. So this, you want to make sure you can get out, because this is also your charge ports. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to push it back in here with this here, this part here facing towards the back so it doesn't re-clip in, and just push it down. That's just going to keep any debris from getting into the CVT while we're underneath working on draining it. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go underneath the vehicle. So hold tight, and we're going to pick you up underneath the vehicle. Alright guys, we're underneath the vehicle now. This is the passenger side wheel right here, and then the driver wheel, front wheel, is right here. So what you want to look for is you have two pans. You have this pan here, that's your oil pan for your engine. This is your transmission here. There's the exhaust in the middle for reference. Transmission pan, as you can see, does not have a drain plug on it. The older model Altimas do, the newer ones do not. It's kind of unfortunate because there's a lot of fluid that sits in here that you do not get out by removing the drain plug that they do give you, which sits way up high here on the side of the transmission. So if you go way up inside there, probably won't even see it on camera, but you have to take my word for it. The drain plug, okay, so here's the front of the transmission there. The drain plug sits right above my finger right there on the side, leaving all this fluid sitting in this pan right here. So you miss out on getting a lot of fluid out. In fact, I've already done that procedure where you take out the 10mm hex bolt for this transmission. I only got 1.5 quarts of fluid out, and then I was able to siphon through there by removing this panel right here with some clips. I was able to siphon out an additional 1.5 quarts, so I got a whole whoop-de-woo 3 quarts out of this. In my opinion, that's not enough. I want to get more out of this, you know what I'm saying? I don't feel that that's very adequate for what I consider drain and refill. So what we're going to do is we got some basic sockets here, nothing fantastic. We got a couple drain pans here as well. I'm going to try to push my mats out of the way here so they don't get all covered in grease and oil. And try to position these drain pans in a way that this fluid is going to run out of there and get caught in there. So we're going to first figure out what size socket this is. So let's take a look here. I'm going to see if I'm going to put you on a hole and put you back on tripod here so you guys can watch what I'm doing, okay? Okay, my goal is not to knock this camera over. It's got quite a nice camera here, so. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm just going through my sockets to figure out what size this is. And they might actually just be a 10. They look pretty small, these fasteners on here. So, and that's what they are. They are 10. So we got that lined up. We're going to loosen these. I did get a gasket for this. I'm going to go in the car and make sure the gasket is the right size. I was really surprised that Advance Auto actually carried the appropriate gasket for this vehicle. I was actually really taken by that. I was not expecting that. So now, once again, the goal is we want to get and capture as much of the CVT fluid we can into this drain pan. We don't want to lose any of it. The reason for that is A, it's bad for the environment. B, we want to also measure how much comes out so we know actually how much to actually put back in the vehicle too. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get that gasket from within inside the car that I purchased. It's a Felpro. I'll get you a part number for that, and then we'll go ahead and I'll start going through the process of showing you what we're going to need to do this then, okay? So hold tight for again, guys, with me. Alright guys, so here's the gasket I got. It is a Felpro, and the part number it looks like that's on it is going to be TOS space 18755. It's a transactional gasket, and this is the fluid you need. You need to have Nissan constant variable transmission CVT Nissan NS2 part number 999 MP-NS200P. I got 7 quarts of this. We're probably only going to need 5, maybe 5.5 according to Nissan for a drain and refill on this. This is the procedure that the dealership does. They like to keep it a big secret from you for whatever reason. I guess so you will obviously take your vehicle to them, but this is the procedure they do. So first I'm going to go ahead and make sure this gasket is the correct one. And you always want to make sure you order these. Now, if you do your homework, you can get this fluid here. I got this for about $14.50. That's with shipping including, off a guy on eBay. So if you do your shopping around, you can definitely get this cheaper. The dealership wants $19.95 plus tax on these. So you don't want to waste this stuff. It's pretty expensive. So we're going to sit that out of the way, and we're going to get you back on tripod so you guys can watch me do this drain procedure. So hold tight again. Alright, so what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to make sure this is the right gasket for this before we start draining all this out of here. So you just take your gasket here and you kind of just eyeball it here and just make sure that it's the correct one. And the Nissan guys all say they reuse it. All the bolts line up. So we're going to say this is the correct gasket. So to keep it safe, I'm going to put it back in its box that it came in. We're going to put it aside, keep it from getting ripped or torn. We are going to use the new one. Like I said, Nissan told me they reuse these. The service manual says not to. In fact, the service manual even says not to reuse the bolts. But you know what? I don't think we're going to have any problems. So we're going to keep that in a shade to keep it from getting all funny on us. And we're going to go ahead and start working on cracking these loose on here. So first thing I need to do is get my 10mm socket out here. And I got my rag ready because this stuff's probably going to come flying out of here more than likely. So let's get my socket wrench unloosened. I still have to look up and find out what the torquing specs is on this yet. I have not looked that up yet. We'll look that up here in a bit. Right now I just want to get this fluid drain started on here. Never done this before, guys, so I have no idea what we're in for. So we're going to loosen these rear fasteners first, hopefully so that the fluid will flow backwards out the back. So we're just going to start cracking these all loose. Just to get them loosened up. Alright, now that we got those ones loosened up, we're going to start loosening these ones more towards the back. So these are the ones we want to allow the pan to drop. Alright, I'm going to give it a little pry here. Might not just drop like we want it to. There we go, starting to get some drip. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to try to make sure we catch as much as out we can. What I'm doing, I'm just cracking these top ones loose. We don't want them too loose. We just want the ones towards the rear here so that we don't end up losing all the fluid there. So there we go. Let's see if we can try to make this work like you do any other. That's what we want. We want it to drain from the back so we don't have fluid going all over the place here. So we're trying to loosen these ones up slowly, more so than the front ones. This is to avoid losing too much fluid all over the place. This way we can get a proper measurement on these. There we go. Let that run for a bit. We're not in a hurry. We want to do this correctly and take our time. Now I've pulled this vehicle up onto car ramps here just to support it better, and I've also went ahead and put a block behind the rear wheel just in case, you know, but I got the emergency brake on. The vehicle's obviously in park and off. Tug it down a little bit there. Just trying to keep it controlled here, what we're draining out. Basically looks like gear oil. Alright, so we're just going to let this drain for a bit here. It's probably going to take a little while, but I'd rather have it a controlled drain so we can catch most of it in a pan and get an accurate reading of what we're actually getting out of here so we can fill it up with the correct amount. So instead of letting you sit here and watch this drain for 20 minutes, I'm going to just turn you off and we'll pick you up on the next part. So hold tight, guys. Alright guys, we're back again. As you can see, we're getting a much better, more productive flow here. I've loosened the bolts up even more, and got this pan about halfway filled so far, the drain pan, so we're just letting it do its thing. I've got it trying to keep it under control here, as you can see. You know, as far as trying to capture as much of this as we can. I want to capture 99.9% of this fluid if I can, so we can get an accurate measurement of what we're actually taking out of here. It would have been a lot easier if Nissan would have just simply put a plug on the bottom of this pan, but I'm sure they have their reasonings. My theory behind it is probably so that people don't accidentally loosen this up instead of the oil drain plug, because I'm sure there are some folks out there that aren't familiar under here what they're doing, and they get under here and they loosen up the transmission pan plug instead of the oil plug, and then you got yourselves $20 a quart worth of fluid that you're going to have to replace and ruin your transmission if you don't realize that you did what you did. So I'm sure that's why, and it's also probably to scare people into having to take it to the dealership to do this. But I'm very happy with this. I'm getting a really nice flow out of here. So it's starting to slow down a little bit. I'm going to push the pan back. Just try, like I said, we're trying to capture as much of this as we can, trying to keep it from going everywhere. The wind just decided to blow. Stuff smells pretty interesting. So I'm going to start getting ready for the second pan here. See if we can try to redirect the flow into my extra pan. So we're going to start working on that now. I'm going to pull out the pan. It's not full yet, but I don't want to overfill it and get it to a point where I'm not going to get a accurate measurement because it overfilled everywhere. So there we go. So let that one catch for a while. Alright, so we're going to let that drain for a bit. I'm going to go ahead and pause you guys again. I'm going to start measuring this fluid into a, we're going to pour it into an old oil jug, an old 5-quart oil jug, which is got measurements on the side that tells me how many quarts on a little window. So we're going to start measuring that here into a jugs so we can start figuring out how much we've got out of here so far. So while this is continuing to drain down here, I'm going to go ahead and work on that off camera here. Nothing really to see, just going to use a funnel to drain the other pan into that 5 quart jug. So hold tight, guys. Okay, we're picking back up. We're going to see now that it's really starting to slow down, as you can see. So far I've got just shy of 4 quarts in that other pan filled up to the, in my drain pan, or in my, in the other drain pan that I put into the actual jug that I'm saving it in so I can measure it. We're going to start loosening these up a little bit more as it's starting to slow down. Should have some gloves. This fluid is a little warm. I just got done driving the vehicle about an hour ago. So these are still pretty warm. I'm going to save these bolts here into a magnetic dish. They're a little warm. I wish I wasn't out of gloves. I usually have gloves for this stuff, and I'm out right now. Might need to get these back ones here with the socket wrench extension. We're going to get a little dirty here. Alright, try to keep as much fluid as I can. Okay, just working around the pan here and just taking these fasteners out. Move it in a little bit. Alright, now we can really kind of pull down on this. Okay. Just kind of prying it with my fingernail here. Just trying to speed things up a little bit. Only a few fasteners left here holding this in, so we're getting down to brass tacks here. May need to bring the other pan in here just to get it back up here. I'm going to grab the other drain pan. Get some backup here in case it decides to start flying everywhere, which it probably will. Now I'm going to start taking these out of here. There, that seems to be the one that was really holding this bugger on here. Just working my way around. Try to dry my hands off. They're getting really greasy from this oil. all these fasteners in a nice area. Pretty much down to 3, I believe. 3 fasteners here. Now 2 fasteners holding this in, so we're getting to a point here where we need to start getting a rag up here and holding this sucker in place. It's not going to hold for very long. Only held in by one, guys. This is pretty much getting down to brass tacks. Try to support it the best I can. We take this last one out. Alright, so right now I've got it completely disconnected. I'm going to push it backwards like this so we can drain whatever's in this pan out. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to take the pan and set it aside because we're going to use this to clean that out here in a minute. Make sure we get this old gasket to come down. So we want to put a new one on here. Hopefully it doesn't fight me because I might just reuse it if it's still in good shape. That gasket might be still good to use. The dealerships say they always reuse it, so I may just do the same here, as it looks like it's going to be kind of a pain in the derriere, to be honest, to release it from what I'm seeing here. It looks pretty caked on there. I might spend half the day just trying to pry it off of there. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. I may just leave this gasket on there because, like I said, the guys all at Nissan seem to reuse them. They very seldom ever change it, and they said they don't have any problems. So that might be just what I'm going to do here. And I'm only doing this, guys, because from what I'm seeing here, it looks like this particular gasket might be kind of hard to come off of here without using a razor blade, and I don't want to really get all into that here. The gasket looks fine. I hate to really mess with it. I could put a new one on there, but I really hate to mess with something that's not broke, you know. So, see a little bit of friction material. We're just going to wipe some of it off these bolts. It's not anything drastic, but a little bit. So we're going to leave that pan under there just so it can catch anything that you know, may come out while we're working here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on pause. I'm going to see if I can get a nice soft blade to see if I can get this gasket off here. I hate to do something, fix something that's not broke, but at the same time I hate to leave it on here and have it leak. So I don't know if they use a sealant on there or what they use on there. But yeah, we're going to pause you just so I can get some more tools, and then we'll see what to do next. So if you want to have a quick look here, I'll show you guys what it looks like inside here. This is what the inside of your CVT looks like. Not much to see. There's the pickup spout for the fluid. But yeah, like I said, this gasket on here, it seems to be really on there, and I hate to play with it, especially if Nissan told me the mechanics just pop the pan back on. They don't even touch them, they said. So I may just leave it on there. The car's only got 47,000 miles on it, so it may be still okay. So I'm going to think about it while I'm off camera here and see what we can come up with here for you. But that's where we're going to end for now, and then we'll be back in a minute. Alright, so we got the transmission pan here from the Nissan. I'm going to opt to leave the gasket on there. The more and more I play with it, the more I realize that there's probably a reason why the Nissan mechanics just reuse them. Got some just regular brake cleaner here. We're just going to clean this up here, the pan. Just get any debris out of here that shouldn't be in here. These are the magnets on here. We're going to clean them up. Alright, we're going to let that soak for a minute there. Go around the edges. Clean this pan up. These are the magnets. Seem to have a typical amount of friction material on them. Not anything unusual for the mileage. Swish that around there and try to clean that up the best we can, that brake cleaner. Go. We want this to be completely clean, no junk or particles in it. Probably a little overkill, but I like to make sure that everything's nice and clean before I put it back together. Okay, we're going to let that air dry. Now we're going to clean up. These are the magnetics, yeah, you know what I mean. These are the magnets that are in the pan. We're going to clean them guys up, get the friction material off them so they have a clean start. Easier said than done. A lot easier to do if you have free hand. There you go. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Should have the general idea. Of course, the magnets decided to get stuck together. Well, these are strong magnets. Alright. Alright, that's a good clean magnet. We're going to pop that back into its proper place. Clean up the second one. And keep in mind, there are clutches in these transmissions. There's clutches that engage the torque converter into the variator. So, these CVTs aren't clutch free, so this clutch material on here, it's got about 47,000, almost 48,000 miles on this car, so, this seems pretty normal to me for amount of material, especially since this has clearly never been done. So, we're going to give this pan one last nice clean. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the outside too. So I'm going to clean the outside of the pan. That way I don't get a bunch of grease all over me when I'm trying to put this back together. Alright. Looks pretty clean. I'm going to get one more cleaner rag. I'm just going to go around the edge here. I'll let it drain out. And what I'm doing is going around the edge of this just to get any oil off it. This way it gets a nice good seal in there. Alright. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, now that this is nice and clean, I'm going to go back underneath the vehicle here. I'm going to take my brake clean with me here and get you back up on my hand here. And we're going to clean around the edge of the transmission here. Get down in the gravel. We're going to take our rag here, and we could probably get rid of this because it's all seems to be going that way. So we're going to go around the edge of this gasket with my rag with a little brake clean on it and just clean that up. So I'm going to do that, and once I do that, we're going to go ahead and put this pan back up on here so we can start refilling this guy back up. So hold tight, guys. Alright guys, let me try to get this tripod to cooperate here. Alright, that should do. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try to get this camera where you can actually see what I'm doing. We're going to go ahead and get my clean rag here, spray a little brake clean on it, and we're just going to go around and clean up this gasket on here as I opted to reuse it. Just because I want to, and that's what the dealership said they do. They said they very rarely ever change these. The official book says change it, I get it, but unfortunately I'm not going to go through everything that's necessary to try and change this gasket. I just feel it being more detrimental to this process. Now, you may want to go through the extra process of changing this, but you know, that's something that you have to make that executive decision on your own. Like I said, I'm just not doing it because this gasket's still very pliable, and I don't see any issues with doing this, so we're going to do it this way. Alright, so now we got that all cleaned up. I'm going to give our bolts over here a little spray brake clean. Doing that to make them less slipperier. Less slippy, I should say. And then clean off my socket here so that it won't be so slippery. And then I'm going to go ahead over there and I'm going to grab my, just give this a little dab there and try not to knock anything loose because I have no idea how to fix a transmission. Alright. Oh yeah, a lot of friction material up on here on that pickup assembly. Alright. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab that pan. And we're going to start putting this sucker back together here. Alright, let's see here. Direction do we go? I want to try not to go straight up on it because we don't want to damage anything. There's little notches here that tell you where they go, or little notches to help like position the pan that stick down. So we're going to stagger these bolts, one towards the back, one towards the front here. And that way, we got something to balance the pan in place. There we go. Perfect. It's not a really hard job, really. It's a little messy, but it's not bad. I mean, I've definitely done harder than this. No doubt in my mind, I've done harder repair jobs than this one. You want to get them all the way on by hand if you can. You don't want to take any chances of stripping these threads out of this tranny. Be a bad day. Okay. Alright, so you guys get the general idea. I'm just putting these fasteners back in. While I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and start looking up the torque specifications. Hopefully I can find them. I probably should have did that before I started getting into a project like this, but I've also been working on cars long enough I can usually judge just by doing hand tight, you know, how tight it needs to be, the torque, you know, on these. So yeah, so anywho, I'm going to probably go ahead and stop recording so we don't have 20 minutes of me putting bolts back in. This should give you the gist of it. Now the next part we're going to pick up is me torquing these. So we'll go ahead and work on getting these wound down, and then I'll grab my torque wrench. So we'll be back here in just a few minutes, guys, so hold tight. Alright guys, we're back. We got our torque wrench here. I have the Nissan service manual, could not find the torque specs. So I got a torque wrench here. I'm going with about 8 foot-pounds. That's what I read somebody else suggested on another Nissan vehicle. So we're just going to go ahead and go with that because I don't know what it is. So I'm just staggering them back and forth here. I just want them to be all about the same. Alright, so now that I got them crisscrossed, I'm just going to go the whole way around. You just want to wait for the click. It's probably not picking up on camera because I got my hand muffling it. So you just go and you hear the click and then you stop. I'm just going through and double checking. Alright. You guys are probably MFing me right now for not changing that gasket, those of you that do know cars. I mean, obviously that's what Nissan recommends, but I could not get that off there without making a bigger project. So now we're going to go back up to the top of the engine. So hold tight for that, guys. Alright, YouTube, we're back again. We're up at the top of the car now. I've got my Nissan CVT fluid. We're going to fill this up. I'm going to start off with 5 quarts. I definitely got at least 5 quarts out of it, draining it. It's probably going to be about 5.5, but we're going to put 5 in, set it down level, and then check it. So we're just going to start putting it in. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a green color CVT fluid. And once I get about 2 quarts in, I'm going to go down at the bottom and take a look at it. Check the level on it. Or check to make sure there's no leaks, I should say. I got 1 quart in. We want to get as much of this out here as we can. This stuff is not cheap, guys. Stuff is expensive. $20 a quart for this stuff when you go to the Nissan dealership. Extortion. Get some brake clean. I'm gonna wipe up down here a little bit more just to make sure this isn't leaking. So I don't want to put several quarts of this stuff in here and then have it leak out all over the place. I don't see any leaks, so that's a good start here. Alright, good. Doesn't appear to be leaking. So, go ahead and just like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and put 5 in because I'm very confident we definitely got at least 5 out. And like I said, I think we got a bit more than 5 actually, but we're going to start with 5. Book calls for 7 3/4 quarts, it says, that come out, but I don't buy that. And the Nissan dealership even said only 5.5 comes out, I think they said. That's what it looks like too, so we'll know here in a minute. Once we get these put in here, I'm going to go back and remeasure what came out, and then we'll go with our final number here. Like I said, if you guys can keep your eye out on eBay, I got a heck of a deal for this stuff on eBay. Like I said, the seller that I got this off of sold it to me dirt cheap. You know, even after shipping, was still $14.50 for quarts. I mean, I think the Valvoline CVT fluid, which some people use in here, which I personally don't recommend, I would just use the Nissan stuff, it goes for oh boy, 16 I think dollars a quart for that stuff. So might as well just get the correct stuff on eBay, you know. Amazon, I didn't find any fantastic deal on Amazon for it. Sorry if this is a very long video, and I know I'm chatting a lot, but like I said, I am a little nervous because, like I said, this is my first time doing this or servicing these, and these transmissions are super sensitive to screwing them up, so I'm trying to take my time and pay attention to what I'm doing here. Alright, that's 4. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and put the 5th one in. Once I get this 5th one in, I'm going to go ahead then and go back to my old fluid and remeasure it again and just double check and then make a judgment call from there before I start the vehicle. Alright, so that's 5. So now what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to go over and remeasure what came out and take a closer observation of what I got out of it, and then we're going to go from there. So I'm going to turn you off while I'm doing that at this point and recording, you know, 20 minutes of nothing. So we're going to go ahead and turn you off, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I measured the oil that came out of it, the transmission fluid, and it looks like we got 5.5 quarts, which is exactly what the dealership said was going to come out. So I'm sure I spilled a little bit over that too, so it's a little bit more than 5.5 quarts. So we're just going to try to slowly pour this in here and try to get it to about half a quart in here. Okay, so that's at a half a quart. I'm just going to go a little bit further, just because to overcompensate for anything I might have spilt. So that's going to be a good start point, so we can go ahead and get it down off the car ramps so that we can get it on level. Take it for a drive around the block, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to check the level on it here and see how close we got it. So we'll be back here in a few minutes, guys, and go from there. Okay, so we are done doing the transmission drain and refill. We got about approximately 5.5 quarts out of the CVT. Now we're going to went around the block with it, ran it through all the gears, and we got it parked on level at idle. at operating temperature. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to pull out the dipstick out of the charge port here, and I'm just going to go ahead and clean it off, as some of the residual fluid still might be draining down the actual charge tube. And then we're going to put the dipstick back in, but we want to make sure we don't put this thing, we don't want to click this back in quite yet, because we want to be able to pull back out to check the level. And I don't know how well that's going to pick up on camera, but if you see that second notch right there, that's where the fluid's at, and it's actually right where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to check it one more time, and then tomorrow I'll check it again tomorrow just to play it safe. Push that back in there. Put it down. Check it one more time, and yeah, it's perfect. It's right where it needs to be. We're going to just leave it there, and then tomorrow I'll check it again once everything's had a chance to settle down and recirculate again. So, but that's it. This is the how you change the CVT, well, at least how the dealerships do the drain and refill procedure on a 2011 Nissan Altima 2.5 SL model. And that's it. Just check the fluid in a day or two, just make sure that it's still up there. It took me about a little bit more, slightly over 5.5 quarts of the NS2 Nissan fluid. And that's a wrap. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching.